You are listening to WGRN 91.9 LPFM Columbus, the Green Renaissance. We are pleased to bring to you a very special segment called WGRN Presents. The following interview with Bucky Cutright, founder and co-owner of Columbus Ghost Tours, was recorded Thursday, March 19th, 2026.
My name is Bucky Cutright. I am the founder and co-owner of Columbus Ghost Tours and author of the book Haunted Cemeteries of Ohio for the History Press. The book came out in 2022, and I wrote it during COVID. I always make the joke that I could mess up a bowl of cereal, so the whole sourdough bread thing wasn't really an option for me. So instead, I started writing. I do author some articles for Columbus Underground, and it just so happened one of those caught the attention of an acquisitions editor for the History Press, and they asked me to write that book right as I was kind of in the process of already trying to write a book. So it worked out quite well.
When did you start doing the ghost tours?
We started the ghost tours in 2012. Initially, it was just going to be something for friends, and so many people wanted to go that first year. We had to do 3 bus tours. Everywhere we went, people were coming up and asking how they could sign up for it because it looked like so much fun. So it was sort of a organic thing where it kind of found me, you know.
What inspired you to start them?
Some friends, we were going to go on a Columbus Landmark Foundation's ghost tour, a BART tour. Landmark Foundation's goal is to preserve historic landmarks around Columbus, and they would do these ghost tours. They started in 1990. They no longer do them. Their mission has changed, but they are great for history buffs, but they could be a little bit dry. And in 2012, my friends and I were a bit rowdy, and I was afraid if we went on the tour, we would get kicked off or just make complete asses of ourselves. So friends suggested that I go ahead and host a tour, and I had some free time, so I did a crash course in some of the story of Columbus and pulled it together, and that's how it came to start.
What's the craziest thing that's ever happened on one of your tours?
We've had a lot of interesting things, and I usually tell people it's a ghost tour, it's not a ghost hunt, but we have had some really interesting things. I was just sharing with someone yesterday, several years back, we were doing a tour, and there was a husband and wife. They were honeymooning here in Columbus, and they came on the ghost tour, and the husband was a complete skeptic, but he got dragged along, and we were visiting the boathouse at Confluence Park, and he heard children giggling in the corner of an empty ballroom, and that was before I told him about all the child ghost stories associated with that building. So he was quite convinced that he'd had his own paranormal experience there.
The guy heard children giggling.
So yeah, I've heard it there before too. Yeah, we've gotten giggles, children's handprints, impossibly high up on mirrors and windows. Really wild story. When I started doing these, I have a friend who was a Franklin County judge, and her and her husband, they came on a walking tour downtown, and we obviously didn't go all the way out to the boathouse on that tour. But they asked me if I took people to the boathouse, and I said, "Yeah, but nobody knows it's haunted. Why would you even ask?" And they had a neighbor who was Columbus police, and one night the alarms went off at the boathouse, and it was on his patrol. He went to do a perimeter check, and as he was walking that ballroom where you saw someone, he was outside with his flashlight. He saw a balloon move through the dining room and heard children giggling through the glass. So he thought it was a break-in. He got the master keys and did a sweep of the building, and there was no children, there was no balloon anywhere to be seen in there. And he refuses to respond to calls at that space anymore.
I used to work there, and that's the only place I've ever seen a full-bodied apparition.
Oh, really?
Oh my God, Bucky!
What? How would you?
It's so haunted.
Yeah, it is. It is the most haunted place that we've ever visited, I think.
You know, it used to be an island for wounded soldiers, and like they were quarantined there.
It was the War of 1812.
A lot of the people that worked there knew too.
There's a lot of there was a cemetery on that site in 1813. There's just a lot of there was an old naval recruitment center there, and just so many ghost stories at that place. And that's one of the places. An interesting thing. Whenever I started canvassing that space and talking to the managers and servers and bartenders and the cooks and everything, they'd see wild stuff like a water pitcher fly across the room. But the Edward, the GM, he said, the creepiest thing is whenever you're just minding your own business and all of a sudden you feel this of air hit you on the cheek like someone's blowing on your face. And I never really told that on tours because I didn't think that was that interesting of a ghost story. One time I was doing a tour there, and we're walking into the big ballroom and get up in front of everybody, and all of a sudden I got the poof of air on my cheek. So I paused and I told everyone, hey, I don't normally share this ghost story, but this is something that people said happened, and I just experienced it just now. And there was a mother and daughter on the tour, and their jaws dropped. My reaction was like, why are you guys so freaked out? I'm the one that just had this happen. And the mother said, because my daughter just had the same thing happen as we were walking down the hall to enter this room. And she told me about it right before you got up and started talking. So it was two of us within a moment of each other that had that experience there, which was kind of wild. Last Saturday, we did a tour there, and I told all these people stuff, and we're back in the storage room, which is supposed to be the heart of the building's haunting. I had told all these stories, and then he came up to the group and he started to tell stories, and it was basically everything I'd already told them. So everyone was pretty impressed that it wasn't stuff that's not making it up,
right? And then the second largest room they have in the facility, that's where I saw like a full-bodied apparition. It was like some guy from the 80s. It was so random.
I think, that guy, it was an older gentleman?
Middle-aged.
Yeah, a lot of people have reported seeing that guy, and I think that he has to do with the naval recruitment center that was there.
He's wearing like a windbreaker suit or something.
He's wearing a what?
Like a 80s, 90s windbreaker suit or something.
Like a windbreaker suit? Yeah. I've heard it. He's often seen in a baseball cap.
But I remember just being like, there's someone there. And then I turned around and I turned back and the room was empty again. And I was like, oh my God. and that room's connected to the same storage room, I'm pretty sure.
No, they are connected. There's a window. So the bar in that smaller ballroom has a window that connects to the big ballroom, and there's a really thick piece of wood that's dead bolted into place to block off those two, and they just open it up whenever they're having an event where they are using a bartender for both events. And there have been several times where that thing's flown out of the window, this big dead bolted block of wood. We've had it happen on a tour before there as well. So.
A beauty above all. The slaves out in our fields had brothers who were killed. So be a woman, may the spirits rise, destroying the unwanted with her when she did arrive, when I wanted her, I would have died. Rub me the song, I said one fine day. Now the girl stood in her needle way.
There's so many great stories all over the city. I have one really interesting. This just came to mind because I was at an event last night where I pulled up this old story. The Sonesta Suites on Nationwide Boulevard in downtown Columbus. It's a boutique hotel. It's called The Lofts. And that building was built in 1880. And from 1880 until 1932, it was used as a warehouse. And now it's a boutique hotel. And several years back, there were a couple of law students who were sharing a room there. They were in Columbus to take the bar. In the middle of the night, they kept waking up to the sound of wallpaper being peeled from the walls. They would turn the lights on, and there was no one there, and it's a boutique hotel. It's all brick. There is no wallpaper. And they'd turn the lights off. They try to go back to sleep, and they would hear the sound of wallpaper being torn from the walls again. They turned the lights on. There was nobody there. They ended up checking out in the middle of the night and getting a room at the Hyatt across the street. They were so disturbed. One interesting thing about this is just a few years ago, I was doing research, and the Columbus Transfer Company, that warehouse, one of the main products they dealt in was wallpaper. So it's always so compelling for me whenever people have experiences like that in a space and nobody knows the history of it. And then do some research and you find that, oh, okay, this makes sense, fits with the background of the building. And I mean, those kinds of connections end up happening quite a lot, and it just always blows me away when they do.
What is a ghost to you?
I have no idea. If I could answer that, I would be on my yacht right now. People have these experiences. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And like I said, I've even had experiences while I've been in the middle of telling ghost stories on a tour. Is it a memory? Is it the soul of somebody who's deceased? Is it something scientific that we don't quite grasp yet, or another dimension? And there's so many different possibilities, and I really have from my experience, it seems like ghosts are a little bit of all of those things. Sometimes there's a people report an incident that really seems to be a what's called a residual haunting, where it's just sort of like an echo. Like imagine walking into a room after someone's had way too much cologne or perfume, and they leave the room and you walk in after them, and that scent still lingers. There are some where there seems to be intelligent hauntings that are the results of somebody having suffered some sort of injustice in a particular location, and they're reaching out from beyond the grave to get their story told and their wrongs righted. There's also different things where, like, if you stare into a mirror, in the dark, your brain starts to hallucinate, and you start to see faces and things like that. There's just so many different things I think that a ghost can be, and not one specific thing holds true over the course of study of paranormal events.
When you were saying the wallpaper thing, to
Mhm.
me, that's almost like one of these residual things where it's like they're just still hanging wallpaper. They're just still doing wallpaper. They're just doing their job.
Yeah, not interacting.
And I love that idea that, like, maybe it's an echo.
Yeah, there was a British paranormal investigator in the 1970s, according to the term stone tape theory. This says really intense human emotions can embed themselves in the environment, and they release over time. And if you happen to be on the right wavelength, you'll pick up on those sort of things. A lot of ghost hunters seem to put forth the notion that the most conductive material for this stone tape theory is limestone, and Columbus sits on a giant bed of limestone. So a bedrock. So we've got lots of great ghost stories here.
I work and I sleep and I dance and I'm dead. I'm eating, I'm laughing, I'm loving myself. I never watch TV except when I'm stoned, like humans do. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. So slip inside this funky.
Are you, Bucky, into other paranormal things? Like, do other paranormal stories or legends or myths or realities, do they interest you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean that's one perk of having created my own business. I can go whichever direction the wind takes me. We had a Bigfoot camping trip 11 years ago at Salt Fork. We spent a night camping at their primitive campground, which is called Bigfoot Ridge because of the number of sightings that occur there. We would take people through the park, tell them the history of Bigfoot sightings in the state of Ohio, which we just had a big flap this past week where there was
Yeah.
6 or 7 credible sightings in a course of 4 days in northeastern Ohio. We'd do that and then go back to the campfire and sit around and tell a few ghost stories and zip up the tent, and every twig that would snap would, put people quite on edge.
I
So
think I
yeah,
want to
so
go to Bigfoot Ridge with you.
yeah.
I mean, I was following that. That was gonna, be my question I asked you too. Is like, what do you think about this most recent batch of Bigfoot? I assume that the Bigfoot family made it to Lake Milton. I don't know. That's the
It
last I
looked
heard.
it looked like they were heading that direction, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I was looking at.
Yeah, I love the Bigfoot thing. Whenever I was a kid, I grew up in West Virginia, so we have a lot of monsters, and the Mothman, the Flatwoods monster, there's a Grafton monster. There was, when I was in high school, there was a creature in my hometown called the Abaguchi, which was chewing the legs off of pets and livestock. A lot of people, they had no idea what it was. And there was this silly, stupid, like rumor mill that it was some creature that had been genetically engineered by the government, and they turned it loose as an experiment in West Virginia. So the conspiracy theory stuff. But the thing is, it was a mountain lion. My mom saw it.
Wow.
I came home from school one day, and it was in the middle of spring, and the trees didn't have the leaves on them yet or anything. And we live in the country, and there's a forest just off of our yard, and then further down the hill, there's a pasture where the farmer kept cows. And my mom, it was the middle afternoon, she was out on the front porch, and she saw this large cat with a long tail that swooped way down, and it was stalking the cows in the field nearby. And so that was right when all this was going on. And I know that the ODNR likes to say that there are no eastern mountain lions, that they're extinct, but there seems to be a lot of evidence that that's not the case. They're just a very elusive animal. I years ago I wrote a series of articles on cryptozoology in Ohio and all the different weird creatures. One day I'd just written an article about big cats existing here and their sightings, and I was just sitting on the patio at Club Diversity, and I overheard a woman talking to her friend about, she was from Southern Ohio, how not long before she was walking through the woods and she saw a large cat up in the trees, not a bobcat, but an actual like a mountain lion. So yeah,
Wow.
they seem to be here. So I mean, that was I was just so happened that I was writing the article at the time that I just overheard this lady having a conversation with her friend very candidly about it. And my sister actually saw what would only just be described as a Bigfoot a while back, and she's not prone to flights of fancy, And she was just on her way to work one morning, and she saw this large bipedal hairy humanoid thing run across the road in front of her vehicle very early in the morning and followed a tree line, and that was in Knox County. Whenever I was growing up in West Virginia, the Mothman was a very prevalent figure. And in college, I actually made friends with the daughter of one of the original teens who had the first sighting of Mothman in '66. So, yeah. Just a couple of years ago, there's the Loveland Frogman. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him or it or they. Who knows what the Frogman likes to refer to themselves as? But it's a cryptozoological creature that's not actually frog-like, but it has its mouth has been described as very spans its entire head and is kind of flat and resembles a little bit of a frog in that manner. There's a Frogman Festival now, and the very first year we did it, there was a woman who came up to me, and we started talking, and she mentioned that she's one of the only surviving original witnesses to the Mothman. Her name is Linda Sigmund, and we became friends. And I was so caught up talking with her, I didn't really get a chance to ask her about her experience. After I met her, I went and looked online, and I found a YouTube video where she described she was on a date, and it was her and a guy sitting on the hood of a truck drinking beers late at night, looking up at the stars, and all of a sudden they saw this big red light, this kind of ball of light that moved, and this winged creature emerged from it, separated from it. That she described as the Mothman. Very interesting thing about this story is my father, he was a carpenter, he was a farmer, and in rural West Virginia, he was no nonsense. When I was a teenager, I was watching Unsolved Mysteries with him one evening, and there was a segment on UFOs, and he tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, I saw one of those once," which completely blew my mind that he would even admit to such a thing. And he had been hunting with one of his buddies, and it was not yet dawn, and they were coming off a mountain, and they saw this bright red ball of light that moved out. It was around the same time Linda Sigmund had her sighting, and basically his experience coincided with hers, other than the Mothman part. But I knew his friend who he had been hunting with whenever he saw this thing, and they weren't really close any longer, but I had to ask the guy. My dad said you guys saw a UFO, and he described it exactly as my father had. So that was a really compelling and interesting story as well.
Speaking of UFOs, that was also kind of on my list, is to ask you about if you've ever seen a UFO, and also perhaps if you have any thoughts on Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and Dayton and its prolific numbers of sightings.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I personally have never seen a UFO, although I will tell you, Ohio does have a very strong connection to the whole mythology of UFOs, and Central Ohio in particular. But yeah, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is supposed to be home to Hangar 18, where they took the remains from the Roswell crash in 1947, and that's where they were supposed to be stored. Now, the government's always denied that, but several years back, I was visiting Wright-Patterson. The museum is incredible if you've never been. It's staffed by volunteer retired Air Force staff. And I asked one of them. He was trying to sell us up on a bus tour that takes us to another. That would take you to another hangar outside of the main Air Force Museum. It's where all the Air Force One planes are and stuff. And I asked him. I was like, "Well, so does that go by Hangar 18?" And he's like, "Yeah, it goes right by it." And I was like, "Aha!" the Air Force's hard line is that there is no Hangar 18. So he admitted it.
That place is huge.
It's enormous. Yeah.
Portion that they let you tromp around in as a visitor to the museum itself is huge, and that's like a very small percentage of the entire place, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's massive, and I have no doubt that some of the things people are seeing are ours. I would think, but I would imagine that where humans are doing that sort of technological development, that might attract attention as well.
Anybody can. The rain is pouring in on a woman and a man. I'm aching, I'm shaking, I'm breaking like humans do. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Oh.
You're into history and you're also into mythology to a degree, right?
And folklore,
Um,
yeah, absolutely.
but like this is sort of like native history combined with folklore. Have you visited the mounds? Have you gone to Serpent Mound? Are you hip to any of the
Oh yeah.
lore that's associated with the Serpent Mound in particular or anything like that? I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to equate a burial mound or an effigy mound with a ghost story, but there are things that happen by the Serpent Mound that are
Yeah.
related to that, you know?
Yes, absolutely, and that's I've been to almost every mound I could find in the state of Ohio, which is, I mean, there's a lot. Quite a few years ago, I think it was in 2017, we were offering tours. Pre-COVID, we were offering tours of the mounds. We would visit Mound City, the Serpent Mound. We had a Great Circle and Alligator Mound tour. And the thing is there are some ghost stories associated with those places, and there's a current thought that it's offensive to equate, ancient burial mounds with these. With ghost stories, but the thing is in the Algonquin tradition, there is the idea of a grave ghost. Most tribes believe that the soul upon death would split into two parts. One would go to the afterlife, and another part would remain with the human remains until they completely disintegrated to protect the site. So that's a legitimate belief system that goes back thousands of years. So it was a cultural belief. These are also very mystical places and just fascinating, the Serpent Mound, it's alignment with all these different events. I mean, whether they be celestial, lunar, and stellar, it's phenomenal architecture, and definitely was built with a great purpose and thought. And they're just my favorite places to be in the state of Ohio. Honestly, I'm at my happiest when I'm near a mound. I do have to say, I did go for the summer solstice to Serpent Mound one year, and it was ridiculous. There were people, a lot of purple capes and eyeshadow, and folks are in the middle of the mound doing all these weird ceremonies, new agey stuff. There's people just throwing a bunch of rotting food on the mound for some purpose. And I mean, it was to be there and see that kind of thing happening. It was just kind of revolting. I wanted to go to the parking lot and scrape everyone's coexist bumper stickers off their cars. Yeah, the mounds are just they do really honestly have at least for me, I have a very deep sense of peace when I'm at them. But I have heard people report some creepy stuff too, so
Did you catch wind of the giant crop circle that happened back in like 2002 or 2003 there?
Yep, indeed. Yeah, and that was reported in conjunction with some sightings of a UFO that independent people described this unidentified flying object that had the same shape basically as the crop circle, which was really wild. So that was very, very interesting. I believe it was a Cincinnati, a UFO reporting center, and that's where they got these reports from, like independent people, quite a few different individuals, and they all described it as the exact same features as basically what the crop circle was. And it's really interesting too. And I have to say this whenever I first got into this stuff and heard people tie all these things together, I was like, okay, that's just too much. But the connection between some of these hauntings, UFO sightings, Bigfoot, things that shouldn't be there, they can be interconnected in some ways, and there's really good arguments about to support that. Actually, if you look at the history of these sightings.
You are listening to WGRN Presents on WGRN 91.9 LPFM, Columbus, the Green Renaissance.
I think it was in 1912, there was a mother and son near Marietta, Ohio, that were going blackberry picking, and they noticed a strange cloud that was following them. And then they heard noises and saw a big, hairy Bigfoot creature, basically, in the woods, and they ran away. In 1970s in Minerva, Ohio, I don't know if you're familiar with the Minerva monster, but it was a bunch of Bigfoot sightings that went on for a long time. That was preceded by a large UFO being spotted across from the family. Clayton was the last name of the family who got the brunt of these Bigfoot encounters. It was right across from their house. They saw this large UFO. It was 10 years before their experiences in the 60s. There was a woman about 10, 12 miles away from Minerva who saw a strange cigar-shaped object floating outside her window, and there was a window in it. She could see a person, what looked like a human in it, and it was just kind of hovering. And then it was right after that she started seeing a Bigfoot creature started approaching her house and terrorizing her family. So it's just a lot of really interesting connections with these things.
Ohio is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
The name of the business is Columbus Ghost Tours. It's a standalone. It is not affiliated with the national ghost tour business that's now operating in the city, which lists their name as Columbus Ghost Tours and Haunted Pub Crawls. The website for Columbus Ghost Tours is just columbusghosttours.com. And our social media, our Instagram, our Facebook, and all that is under the name Booze and Booze, BOOZE We started as a haunted pub tour, a historic tavern crawl, and that's what we were initially named, and our social media still reflects that. We offer several different tour options. We have a Ghost of German Village tour, and we have a Creepy Columbus tour, which is all downtown Columbus. It starts on the steps of the State House. We have our Booze and Booze Historic Tavern Tour, which happens on Thursday nights. And this weekend, we actually are just resuming our day and night tours of Green Lawn Cemetery. We have a day tour in the cemetery that focuses mostly on Civil War era hauntings around town, and then we have a night tour, which we're the only people in the cemetery's 176-year history that's been allowed to bring the public in after the gates are closed at night. As I said, I am the author of Haunted Cemeteries of Ohio, too. So if you're coming on that tour, you're getting an author-led tour.
Wow. Oh, you have the connections, Bucky. I see you. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I love our historic tavern tour. We hit Ringside Cafe, which is amazing, and the Elevator Brewing Company, and Char Bar, which are all three wonderful establishments. And we're very excited to hopefully be working soon with Huli Huli Tiki Bar, which is opening in the former jury room space.
I have a feeling you're going to be around for a very long time, but we all expire at some point. So someday,
Yes.
long, long from now, what kind of ghost do you aspire to be?
I think I'm going to be one that's just like I am right now. In fact, I actually did a tour for 13 Psychic Mediums several years ago. And on our bus tours, I would typically wear a Victorian costume, a top hat and tails and that sort of thing. And on that particular tour, I was just wearing jeans and a t-shirt. And one of the mediums took a picture of me in the basement of one of the establishments we visit. And in the picture, I look like I've got a top hat and a coat tail on. So I'm probably going to edge towards the Victorian ooh kind of ghost, you know.
You led a tour of psychics. That is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I get people on tours quite often who claim to have abilities, but
Sure.
this one was in particular just for psychic medium class out of Westerville for a shop named Mystic Nirvana. Yeah. So that's it's a very active space as well. And it was just kind of wild whenever she took that picture. I was like, does that mean I'm going to be doing this, telling ghost stories for a long time, even though there's no one there to hear them other than me creating them again? It's very meta, isn't it?
I think it's very cyclical for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, a top hat ghost. I love this plan. That's so
Mm-hmm.
good.
Be my Valentine. Who'll lift this heavy load? Who'll share this taxi cab? Who wants to climb aboard?
Who is an honest man? Who is an honest man?
Who'll help a tired soldier far from his own hometown? Carry these men and women who get lost when the sun goes down.
Who is an honest man? Who is an honest man?
Who walks this dusty road? Who always pulls their way? Who's this inside of me? Who made a big mistake? Who sees these constellations? Seen them go spinning round. Carry these men and women who get lost when the sun goes down.
You are listening to WGRN 91.9 LPFM Columbus, the Green Renaissance. We are pleased to bring to you a variety of live and local recording and reporting from all around Central Ohio and beyond. Thank you for listening and stay tuned for more WGRN Presents.